Hi, I'm Katie Garrett. I'm the current AAEP president, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about some governance issues. As you may know, the Board of Directors has been undertaking a pretty thorough governance review. This process started last year when an amendment to the bylaws came before the general membership concerning the vice presidential selection process. At the general membership meeting last year, that amendment was tabled, and honestly, that's given us a chance to really delve into governance and the bylaws in a little bit more thorough of a way. So earlier this year in January, the Board of Directors appointed a task force to look into the bylaws and governance and make sure that we were doing what's best for the organization and keeping up with modern practices. So the task force has really done amazing work. It's been comprised of members of a variety of ages and genders, practice types, experiences within the AAEP, because we wanted to make sure we got a broad cross-section of experiences and perspectives. And the task force has met multiple times virtually and in person and really delved into some challenging issues. And the conversations have been substantive and productive and really conducted with a high level of respect and professionalism. So I want to thank the task force members for their work on this, because I really can say that the process has been thorough and fair and very constructive. So at the July 2024 board meeting, the board met and reviewed the recommendations of the task force. And again, just like the task force, the discussion was deep and thorough and sometimes challenging, but that's okay because that's how tough decisions get made. And in the end, I think everyone felt pretty good about the process and how this had happened. So now I want to talk about the specific bylaws amendments that the board has approved and that will be coming to you, the member, to vote. So the first thing that I want to talk about is online voting. And right now, in our bylaws, the only way to amend the bylaws is in person at a general membership meeting, which is held at the annual convention. The proposed amendment would allow all of the membership to vote via electronic means, just like we vote for our board member candidates. And the real reason behind this is that we want to enfranchise all of our membership to be able to have a voice in issues as important as amending our bylaws. Just for some perspective, we have about 7,500 members in the organization, and only about 100 to 200 tops come to the general membership meeting at the annual convention. And we're not really getting the voice of the whole membership when only that very small percentage is able to vote. So that's why we want this online voting amendment, because we want all of our members to have a voice so that we know that these decisions are reflective of the views of the entire membership as a whole. And honestly, the only practical way to do that is via electronic voting. The next amendment that I want to talk about is about the vice presidential selection process. And this came off of the amendment that was proposed last year in 2023. Some of the wording has changed a little bit. So this new wording is what has been most recently approved by the board. So that's what we'll be voting on this year, because now essentially the 2023 verbiage is moot. So what this essentially means, and the practical impact is the same last year versus this year, is that it would change the way that the vice president is selected to a small degree. So what happens now is the nominating committee puts forward one name for approval by the board of directors. This amendment would instead direct the nominating committee to put forward two names for voting by the general membership, the same way that we vote for the board of directors. The nominating committee process, which has served the organization extremely well over the years, is not going to change at all. Pretty much universally, everyone thought that that process was excellent and should not be changed. So this amendment really just changes the nominating committee putting forth one name to the board to two names to the general membership for voting. Some of the language in our bylaws right now is really more appropriate for standard operating procedures. It's too detailed to be appropriately present in the bylaws. So some of these amendments do that. They take out the procedural stuff and some of the committee management type things, some policies and procedures for things like membership revocation. All of those things will still exist in their current form. Nothing about it changes, but it's really more appropriate to have that stuff out of the bylaws and in standard operating procedures instead. And then the last group of amendments are honestly pretty minor. It's things like changing small wording to be more modern, reflecting how the AAEP actually does work in today's world, and then removing some redundancies. So pretty small, non-controversial changes. So the format for the general membership meeting is going to look a little bit different this year than it has in years past. Previously, we devoted a lot of time to reviewing the activities the organization had undertaken in the past year. This year, however, we're just going to move straight to voting on these amendments. And what we're going to take up first is the online voting amendment. And you'll also notice that our voting process will be a little bit different this year. So we're going to use a mobile device texting app so that we can have both the secret ballot and the votes can be tabulated very rapidly. But we'll also have a paper ballot available for those who would prefer that format. So the first thing that we'll vote on is that online voting amendment, and if that passes, we will then deal with the rest of the other amendments via that online voting process that was just approved. And that will happen after the convention. You'll receive an email with instructions for exactly how this will happen, but it will happen within a month or two after the convention. If that online voting amendment does not pass, then we will vote on the rest of the remaining amendments after that in the meeting. If the online voting amendment passes, we'll actually have a fair amount of time left in the meeting, so we're going to use that time for a town hall to solicit feedback on specific issues that the membership is interested in. So where can you actually review all of this information? So all of the proposed amendments are going to be posted online, and go to this little URL on the bottom of the screen, and that should take you right to them. And in there, in addition to the proposed amendments, we also have a little bit of a rationale as to why this is being proposed. So this is going to be available to you for between 30 and 60 days prior to the convention, so please take that time to review this material. We also know that you probably have some questions about all of these things, so we'll be hosting a moderated webinar in November where you can submit questions ahead of time or during the meeting via the chat and question and answer section. And so we know you might have questions, so that's an opportunity to ask them, but please don't be afraid to reach out to me or to the AAEP office or board members or anyone else that you think might be able to help you with essentially all of this information that I just gave to you. It's complicated and we get it, but I strongly encourage you to review these proposed amendments, and if at all possible, please come to the general membership meeting in Orlando to make your voice heard. I'm excited to see you there.